Hello and welcome to Her Vision, Her Voice, a show where we celebrate the bold and powerful voices of women, women of color, and women in the LGBTQ plus community who are redefining the music and film industries. I'm your host, Aline Kazarian, and in each episode, we'll dive into conversations with trailblazers who have turned obstacles into opportunities, using their vision to amplify their voices and inspire change. Today, I will be joined by Evaline Wu Huang in the second hour of the show. Evaline is a visionary production designer whose latest feature, Blue Sun Palace, starring Li Kangsheng, premiered at Cannes 2024 and took home the French Touch Jury Prize. Her work spans major festivals like Tribeca, South by Southwest, Toronto, and Golden Horse, and upcoming films include Rosemead, starring Lucy Liu, and Lucky Liu with Chang Chen. She's also a Cannes Lion-winning designer in the commercial space, a published artist across Vogue, ID, and the New York Times, and has even brought her vision to the runways of Paris and New York Fashion Week. Wang is rep by Gersh and a proud member of the Art Directors Guild. Hello and welcome to Her Vision, Her Voice. I am very excited to announce that Evaline Wu Huang is joining me in the studio. And Evaline, welcome. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great. Evaline, the way that I typically like to start off the show with all my guests is to ask them about their beginning phase of their career, basically what those early days were like and what ultimately led you to want to pursue production design in your case. And you've had a very creative, like a very dynamic and creative path. You've studied at, SCI-Arc and the SAIC, and you also were a grantee of the National Endowment for the Arts. So you've had a very interesting path leading up to the work that you have done and you continue to do. What were those early days like? Did you know that production design was something that you wanted to do your whole life, or was it just something that kind of you grew into? What was that like?
I call it the ADHD method of getting through life,
okay,
which is throwing 50 balls in the air at all times and just seeing what sticks, which is probably why it is so varied, I guess. But no, when I finished SCI-Arc, I had focused mainly on VFX heavy digital processes in my architecture career, and when I graduated, I knew that there's an application for it in film, of course. I was very lucky that around that time I saw an internship opening at Sundance. My former boss, Heinel Molnar-Sazaks, had spoken to us when I was a grad school student at SCI-Arc, and it seemed like it was a really interesting way to, I guess, learn about the back end of film and just see where I could actually be involved. And then around the same time, I think I had a photographer friend who also just knew the people in architecture, and she's like, "You need money, right?" I'm like, "Yeah." She's like, "Do you want a PA on this music video?" And I'm like, "What's a PA?"
Mm-hmm.
I had no idea. I remember one of the first things these producers asked me to do was, "Can you go get crafty?" And I'm like, "Well, what kind of crafts?" Like macaroni and cheese? Like what are we doing? We making like paper? Are there kids there? I'm confused.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of how it all happened. As I was doing those two things simultaneously, like getting my feet into film on music videos, and then at the same time figuring out how like larger projects get made via Sundance, it kind of it started to evolve into, well, I think I should do something on the creative side, involving how the image gets made.
Right.
So,
and for someone who has no idea what a production designer does, what in your words shows what that world building is? Like, how would you describe production design to someone?
Well, I think there's two levels to it, right? So the first level is everything on the image that isn't a light that you don't see on screen. The lights on screen, I do. But that isn't that, the costumes and actually sometimes occasionally in Asia, we do the costumes, but everything that's in the image in a movie, on a TV show, that isn't certain lighting that's considered like technical lighting is something that in general I can have a hand in or not have a hand in, depending on just how that project is made, right? And so I think the secondary level is, it's more like when you're working on a feature specifically, it's something where you have to build the story into what you do. So that's really kind of more world building. And so it's kind of like conceiving of what the world of this character is and trying to create that world using whatever resources you might have. And sometimes that's building. Sometimes that's just finding great locations. Sometimes that's little things like props, like what are they interacting with? Sometimes that is lighting, right? And so like, it's just one of those things where you are essentially controlling how somebody is going to perceive this world that this character is in. And there are any number of ways to approach that.
Right. And it is a very integral component of a film in as much as a DP is, right? And you're working hand in hand with all of these different individuals to build that space and that world that people then see the final of on screen. But when it comes to, you know, all this talk about what a production designer does on set, what does it actually look like in pre-production? What's the process like for you when you're approaching a film and you're starting to think about how you even want to start building that specific world for that project?
Totally. I like to do a breakdown. So like I get as much, it's basically your job is when you first begin is to essentially like figure out everything you know and figure out everything you don't know. So what I do is I figure out I ask for all the information that I can, like, hey, where are you guys at with da, 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 da? Are there any things I should know about? Blah, 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 blah. And then I basically list out every single thing I know about a project into like a big Excel spreadsheet, right? Which I will usually shoehorn in general rough numbers just so we all know we're all on the same page. And then based on this master document, my psychotic Excel sheet, I take that and then I start figuring out what every single component in that list needs. And so that goes across like hiring people that work with me, figuring out like how big we're going to get in terms of our team and our scope, and talking to everybody else and seeing what resources they have. And then working really closely with the director and with the DP and also the costume designer. And, you know, sometimes it's with the artist, sometimes it's with the artist manager, depending on just what kind of project it is, and just getting to a cohesive vision where everybody is moving in the same direction, right? And so something that's maybe a bit more of a literal explanation is, i.e., this music video that I'm about to be
right after this is so crazy.
I know, I'm like, ooh, that was perfect storm. But so it's a very quick one. It is for a band that has a lot of, they have a very like analog aesthetic, I would say. And so the location was already locked in. That's something that I would normally be a part of, is picking the location. But because this project came together so quickly, we already had the location. So all I really did in the last 2 days that I've had to put this together is, again, walk through with the directors what they see in terms of what they're actually going to shoot. And then unfortunately, I only met the DP yesterday at like 4 o'clock. So like, you know, there wasn't a lot of time to do that. But basically when a short-term project like that happens, the directors and I will walk through every single room or every single hallway or wherever we're shooting and be like, okay, this is what we see happening. And then I'll ask questions like, okay, well, do we want them to be smoking a cigarette? Do we want them to have bags? And if they do have bags, what kind of person are they? Like, what kind of bag would they have? What kind of little things would this person have, so that when they're actually in front of the camera, it feels natural, right? You're not trying to shoehorn something in that doesn't make sense. Like, the things that you get all sort of fit one vision of what that video is going to be. Right. And then just, you know, bringing stuff that gives options. And so like, i.e., like, we want practical lighting because that always looks better on camera. And when you do that, you never really know how it's going to look. I obviously have a pretty good idea of what it's going to look like, but you never really know until it's in frame on camera. And so you always want to bring a few extra options of just like, hey, this is slightly taller, this is slightly shorter, this is a little bit darker, this is a little bit lighter. Yeah. Just being able to have those tools on hand. So that's basic. It's like, I don't know, I have a truckload of lights, like seating options. There's a few paintings coming from my house because, you know, it was limited budget. We had to use what I have on hand. Yeah. But yeah. And that was going to be my next question, considering that this particular project is so, it's just happening so quickly. I mean, you just met the DP yesterday. So when it comes to those kinds of projects where everything is happening so quick and you don't really have the time to research and think things through and have more thorough conversations with the people around you, what's going through your mind in those sorts of moments? Are you just coming in prepared at all times, no matter what? Or Well, I've come at it from all the. Sometimes it's just straight panic.
Sure.
It's just like, oh God, oh God, oh God. Do we have all the things? Do we have all the things? My mind is sometimes racing. But other times, I guess there's this beautiful thing that happens with film is that there is like a sort of standardized body of knowledge. And that really is very helpful. I hate to, make this analogy, but it feels a little bit like an army.
Sure.
And this is something that like unionized labor brought us, right? Which is like, hey, these are the specific positions. This person works for this person, works for this person. There is like a chain of command. And so because you have this sort of system in place for how things are being done, it's not as freeform as I sometimes make it sound.
Yeah.
I don't really believe in rules. I think every rule is there to be broken at the right time if it is convenient to you. But I do very much appreciate that there is this hierarchy, that there is this working, because it means that when I'm going through this, I know that no matter what, I can rely on the lighting guys bringing light bulbs.
Sure.
As long as I tell them I have 6 lights, they have standard bases, they will definitely have light bulbs.
Yeah. They'll come equipped.
Or even if I don't say that, sometimes they will just assume I have light bulbs because the DP will have said, oh yeah, there's lamps in the room.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like there's certain things that I can rely on already being done.
Yeah.
And that's also, it has a lot to do with who you choose to work with, right? That's another really important aspect of film is like, everything is not done in a silo. There is no great auteur. Everybody depends on everybody else. And so when you decide to do last minute things, you have to have a lot of trust in the people that are going to be on your team. And so you can kind of always see when you get a deck or when you get, an ask from a producer, depending on who it is, you kind of already know what kind of person they are and how they like to work. Hopefully, not always the case, but hopefully. And based on those things and their track record and who they are associated with, you can kind of judge, like, is this the right project for me? Like, is it going to be safe for me to do a short-term project with them? Are they going to be incredibly angry at me because I tell them I can't do something because I just don't have time?
Yeah.
Right? And that level of flexibility is something that's like, it is only learned through experience, I think. Like, what is safe to do and what is safe to say and how transparent do you have to be and how over-communicative do you have to be, right?
Right.
Can't emphasize that enough. Communication is key.
Absolutely. When you're working with another creative, like a director, you obviously are coming to a project with your own influences, with your own creative influences, with things that you've grown up with. And I wonder, when you're working with another creative, how you know when to sort of set aside certain influences or how to even bring them into a project that might be very different from, say, what you've been influenced by over the years. So how do you do that? How do you approach when you're working on a project and it feels maybe very different than something you've done in the past? How do you bring your own influence into that specific project?
I like to think that, with the very specific exception of longer form feature films, especially on the short form stuff, I generally see my, I guess, role as one of trying to understand what somebody else wants. So this is something I learned in design school very early on, which is like, hey, as a designer, you need to figure out what the other person wants. Maybe you're designing a knife, but who is the person that is using the knife? And what do they actually need the knife for? Don't make a knife that nobody's going to buy in the kitchen, right? Like it's silly. So that's generally how I approach it. So say it's like a creative director who wants something that's just a vibe that I don't ever go for. And I'm like, yeah, I fucking hate this. But that's okay though, because there's something interesting. There's always something to be learned, even if I initially don't have a great, read on it. I'm like, I don't really love this. But again, I always think that there is something in every project for you to learn from. Yeah. And the most important thing is understanding why that person asked for that. I come at it like, I guess, like empathetically, like, why does this person want this? And so, i.e., if it's creative director coming to me and being like, hey, I want this. And I'm like, I don't really understand, but can you give me 5 reasons? Like, not 5 reasons, but just like, can you show me references? Can you give me more information so that I can understand why you want this? And then I can bring you stuff. I can obviously do my own research and find you stuff in that world. Right. And sometimes it's, with musicians specifically, especially younger ones, I tend to work with a lot of like, up and coming musicians just because, man, I'm a bleeding heart for the passion projects. Yeah. But with those musicians, it's very much about does this artist want to be in the next, year, 2 years, 3 years? Where are you in your career and what's going to help you? And something that I find to be as like, it's not always possible, but if it is possible, I do like to work with the artist directly, just because they obviously have a very specific idea, and sometimes they have a creative director already and sometimes they don't. But depending on where they are in their career, like those voices, there's a game of telephone that happens because people are so busy, especially when, you know, their album rollouts happening, blah, 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 where things sometimes get missed. And sometimes it's easier to just go speak to the person, try to understand what it is that they actually want. Right. Because at the end of the day, like, yes, there's a director. Yes, there's a creative director. But like, what does this artist actually want? Where are they insecure? Are there things that I can like, that I can do to like bolster their performance and help them feel confident? Like, do they suck at wearing heels? Let's make sure whatever they're walking on is very easy for them to walk on.
Yeah.
Right. Like, let's not put like holes in the floor.
Right. Well, I think that level of communication is also even more important nowadays because budgets are just getting smaller and smaller. Ooh. And especially with music videos, you know, and expectations are still very high. So to combat that, I feel that having that level of open communication with everyone on the team just helps with everything. It helps with, you know, coordinating whatever you need to coordinate. And it just sets the tone, I think, early on for what the next thing is that needs to be done. So I'm right there with you. I think open communication is so key. And I've oftentimes seen people who don't do that and things are just happening very quickly and then they don't know what they're doing and everything starts to fall apart and they start panicking. I'm like, you could have just, you know,
totally.
You could have avoided all of this.
Exactly. I like to think of it as like when things are happening fast and shit might break. Phew, pardon my French.
Oh, it's okay. You can curse on this show.
Because I curse a lot.
It's okay.
But when shit is going to break because you guys are moving so fast, at least one other person needs to know what you're doing.
Right.
And sometimes that's just the person next to you who might be able to tell someone else.
Right.
But whoever it is on your team that will be able to assist you in some way needs to have that knowledge.
Yeah. Everybody kind of has to be a producer, I feel like, on set. Everybody has to wear multiple hats already.
Yes.
But that kind of information is so key to know. So you can tell your fellow creative, hey, this is what, you know, like it's really important.
Exactly.
One of the things that we were talking about, and this is a little bit more of a sensitive subject, we were talking about this when we were emailing and texting back and forth leading up to this moment where you were talking about how there's this lack of credit and an understanding of what people like production designers might do, right? And I'm wondering how you navigate speaking about that in a sensitive way so you're not, you know, you're still advocating for what you believe in, but you're not missing out on certain job opportunities or meeting certain people. How do you navigate that conversation?
I think it depends on who I'm speaking to, but I do think that the most important thing is to try to, like, it's never a blame game sort of thing. Like, I don't think anybody ever intentionally sets out to like make anybody feel like their work is not important or that what they did doesn't matter, right? And I think that in general, I do understand, of course, everybody has a hard job. And I think it's, as much as I can, I try to approach it from like a proactive place of like, hey, I know you have XYZ happening. I want you to know what I'm doing, XYZ, so that you can, as you get to this place, you're not surprised by doing. So I basically try to like jump the gun in terms of like setting certain expectations, so that later on down the line, when inevitably the thing that happens that I think is going to happen, when it happens, it always happens. Mm-hmm. When that does happen, I'm not caught off guard and they're not caught off guard.
Yeah.
Because sometimes they may not understand what I'm saying, but when we get there, they will.
Right.
And as long as I've said that, it's not going to come as a surprise, rather. It'll be more of like a learning moment, like, oh, hey, now I get it. Now I understand. And I think that, you know, for me, it's about as much like education as possible. You know, part of the reason I'm on this podcast is because I don't think that people really understand what production designers do. Mm-hmm. And that is something that like it impacts everybody's job, whether or not you know it, because unfortunately I start before most people do on most jobs. So by the time you got to think about it, right? Like by the time you get to the camera, my job is already done.
Right.
Like all of these decisions were made well before you actually got there. Because if you need, i.e., if I'm building a set for a movie, right? Maybe like, I don't know, 4 to 6 weeks out, we've already decided how much that's going to cost, right? And then, of course, things change along the way, which is fine. We're always prepping for changes. But like, as those things move forward, you have to understand, like, the guy that's delivering it needs at least like 6 hours to load it.
Right.
He needs like this many people to like get it on the stage, right? And then if there's people coming in with lighting from like the electric department, they need a certain amount of time. And so you're basically working backwards from like a predetermined timeline. And so when you get to the end and somebody's like, hey, you guys are over budget. Well, no, I'm not really, because I told you 6 weeks ago, right? And that's just something where it's like communication. Like, I never want that to be a surprise.
Yeah.
And I never want somebody to be like, well, this isn't what I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
You know, and I just think it's about speaking as much as I can to what I'm actually doing, as much as I can, like throughout the whole process, staying in communication, just so somebody else at the end, even though I know they're probably not going to understand it, when we get there, they're not like, oh, I don't know what this is. Why did you do that?
Yeah.
And it's like, well, we spoke about it, right?
Is there a way to take this level of education and make it more common practice? Is it just going to be about individuals speaking in the way that you speak and communicating in the way that you communicate in order for more and more people to have an understanding of these things? Or is there a way to educate people on these kinds of subject matter? Because I feel like most people don't go to film school, so they might not get an understanding of these sorts of things, right? So, and YouTube University can only teach so much, you know, and you can't rely on things like that too much. So I'm just wondering what your thoughts are on that.
I mean, I think in some ways, like, you know, the WGA strikes did something very specific, which was they protected their hierarchy in terms of like the process of like basically raising a writer into like being able to transition them all the way through every single level into becoming a showrunner, right? Because a showrunner is a very specific position in TV. They're kind of in charge. They're the head honcho. They're the big G's, even though there's a director.
Right.
Every season, every episode, sometimes the director changes. So really, the person calling the shots at the top level is going to be the showrunner in terms of like the creative direction of the show, right? And I think that what is really beautiful about where we are as a society in terms of how we have all of these digital tools that do shorten the process, that also shrink the budgets, that also, you know, they demand more from us at a faster pace, is that we have lost some of the hierarchy. And so something that I have tried to do as I have gone through is it's kind of like a multifaceted situation, right? Like, it's partially building allies. So like I'm very, very supportive of the people within my network. I'm always trying to make sure that like a project comes together as well as it can. So I am the psycho person in the background. Like, oh, my friend has a script. We're making this in 5 years. I just put together her producing team. I'm psychotic.
Awesome. Yeah. But
like that way I know the person that's in charge at the top, the producers and the director are going to if that match happens and it goes well, then my job when I eventually get hired 6 months later, however many years later, is going to go well. I know that project is built on like the right foundations. And so as long as I think I'm continually supporting the creatives that I believe in, the people that I do think work well in, then as I'm coming up, I'm also, as I bring up other people, I'm able to kind of like make sure that they're in an environment where they're doing the best thing that they can do.
Yeah.
And it's kind of it's a very strange process. You know what I mean? It's like you have to secure the foundation for it well in advance, like years in advance sometimes. And then you also have to make sure that the generation that you're bringing up with you is doing everything the way that you do it in terms of the communication, the education, like making sure that their skills are on point or above and beyond what anybody else is currently doing. And then being able to like actually execute on like multiple levels, like the technical level, the creative level, and then also like just being able to like, I guess, speak up for the things that you see, that they see, that you maybe don't see.
Yeah.
It's a very vague answer, but I hope that makes sense.
No, I don't think it's a vague answer. And it makes me wonder if you've seen more people in your community, step up in terms of mentorship and really helping to bring that next generation of people who want to do the kind of work that you do. Have you seen that? Is that something that is becoming a little bit more commonplace in terms of just, how we're thinking about the future of filmmaking specifically?
I think so, yes. I mean, i.e. Lena Waithe is not a person that I know personally.
Okay.
But for many years, I have been I think they do, Hillman Grad does this really great fellowship every year, Rising Voices. And they've essentially secured this amazing grant situation. And I think it's 10 filmmakers that get it every year. And they're generally first timers. Maybe they have a short film under their belt, I think. But they support a chorus of diverse voices, shall we say.
Mm-hmm.
And they basically teach them how a union production would be run. And so even though some of those jobs are not union, I'm unclear as to I think it's gone back and forth a few times over the years in terms of whether they're union or not. But what they do is they do follow all the rules regardless. They're held to a very high standard. There is no sloppy filmmaking there. There's a very high standard in terms of hey, no, you have to do this. You have to hold this much money back. I know you think you can get away with it, but no, you have to hold this much money back for the guy that's going to design your poster. That guy, I promise you, is going to need the $300 or whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
They make them hold back P&W fringes. It's one of those things where that program in itself every year is turning out 10 diverse voices that are then going to go into the film ecosystem. And sometimes they go into TV, right? Sometimes they go into, whatever it is, music videos, short form commercials. Sometimes they end up getting their feature made. There was one girl, I think, that ended up getting $1 million grant through AT&T at Tribeca for her first feature. My friend Young worked on that as a makeup artist. And it's one of those things where it's because that ecosystem exists for directors, it starts to exist for all of the people that work around a director,
mm-hmm.
right? So that means that you're also simultaneously raising producers, you're also simultaneously raising actors. A lot of I just had a really great girl that I actually put her up for another feature that I was on, but she was in a short film that I'd done with Hillman Grad, right? And that's one of those things where it's I don't think that there are enough programs out there that succeed at the level that they do, that are quite as visible and I think robust as a program. But I do think that there are people out there doing those things. You just have to kind of find the right fit. As an up and coming person, if there's ever a young person coming to me for advice, I would do my best to, I think, just tell them to find their allies and just really do your research on what kind of work that person is doing and what kind of where do you want to be in 10 years and how do you want your life to look like?
Yeah.
What kind of ethics are you surrounding yourself with?
Yeah. You mentioned TV, you've mentioned showrunners, and that made me think about how you had also brought up Severance. This is a show I still haven't watched, and I've literally been told by so many people to watch it. I'm one of those people that will have a streaming service for a certain period of time because I want to get through a show, and then I'll cancel it, and then I'll get another one. I just don't like having multiple streaming services at the same time. So I will get to Severance, but I'm curious to know why you feel like Severance has gotten world building so right, because that's just what I keep hearing from people, how it's shot, what it looks like, how it's made, that it seems like it is near perfect.
Yeah, near perfect, I would say. It is near, I don't know how, but it's a very interesting system that's happening over there, right? And I think it's a few different levels. First of all, Apple obviously does not care if they make money on Severance.
Mm-hmm.
They have an enormous budget.
Yeah.
They just do not care because they make so much money selling us all iPhones.
Yeah.
For them, this is a creative passion project.
Right.
They're right, we lose money on it, don't care, we get all the accolades, great.
Right.
It's a win-win.
Uh-huh.
So on that level, it works out for the creatives.
Right.
The tech daddy is coming in and doing great things for us. We're happy with that.
Yeah.
But I think that where it succeeds the most for me is that the acting is phenomenal.
Mm.
And I think that that's something where I've seen that, I think, degrade more than I've seen anything else in film.
Interesting.
Because people are looking for different kinds of influence now when it comes to casting. and acting is not really valued the way that it was, I think, as in people don't know what to look for maybe. Or, you know, there's any, I can't guesstimate on like why exactly those things are, but the acting in Severance is honestly phenomenal. And the funny thing is I was commenting to a friend and I think they maybe disagreed with me, but like, I'm pretty sure every single person on that show I've seen in a different role. At least a few of them. Like I've seen them as supporting cast in other roles.
So in the same show, just a different character is what you're saying?
It's sort of. I'm specifically speaking about, goodness gracious, what is his wife's name? I'm never going to remember, but the main character has a wife, right? Ms. Casey. That's one of her names. But Ms. Casey, I've seen her in that role like several times over the last decade in various sci-fi shows.
Oh, okay.
Like there's another one on Netflix called I think Altered Carbon. She's in like Dollhouse, I think maybe. But it's one of those things where it's like she's done this role several times, but for some reason it wasn't until she got to Severance that people really understood how good she was at it. Like being like a half cyborg is like something she's really good at. She's phenomenal at it. You know what I mean? It's insane. I don't know, but yeah, no, I think that one in specific, and it is because Ben Stiller is like, he is a little bit of a visionary in terms of like how he puts together projects and what he supports. I think he's really good at surrounding himself with great people. And I think that because everything is led by the acting in that world and what a character needs, that it really opens the doors for everybody else to have the agency to do a good job. Yeah. To like have their minds open and to like actually like, hey, listen, this is kind of crazy that we're going to retrofit this building, but we are going to do it and this is what it's going to look like. Yeah.
Does it also feel different when you're watching a show like Severance in terms of even thinking about other shows, right, that are coming out at the same time? Do you think Severance is unique in that sense of it is so different that it's kind of in its own category? Because I feel like over the years, especially within the last 10 years or so, it's felt like so many things have just become kind of the same bland thing, whether it's the music that we're listening to or the TV shows and movies that we're watching. It just feels like everything kind of looks and sounds and feels the same. But then sometimes you get these, moments where a show like Severance comes up. And again, I haven't seen it, so I'm basing this entirely on your judgment and what you feel is such a standout with this show. But do you think it's just in its own world as far as what it's been able to accomplish? And does it also give you hope for the future of TV shows and films?
It does. It does give me hope because I think, part of this game is always knowing like what you're aiming for. And if I ever end up in TV for real, like, that is something I would love to work on. Yeah. But I think what you're talking about in terms of like shows looking the same, that's something that I think is being born out of some of like it's really the technological advancements, right? Yeah. So like there's certain camera packages that are just standard. There's certain ways of shooting that are just a little bit standard. Like if I know about it, it's probably used quite a lot. Right? Because I'm not in camera. I don't know. But you tell me you have a 50-foot dolly track, a 100-foot dolly track. We're going to do a long tracking shot through the whole world. It's going to be 3 miles. Yeah. Well, yeah, it's pretty standard. So like, I think that as these processes, like it is always up to the person that's holding the tool to do something special with it and to know like exactly what the right mix of elements are going to be. And I think that very often when things are being made quickly, you tend to default to what you know because you don't have time to come up with anything new. Yeah. And so I think that's kind of what has happened is like as production timelines are shortening, you're kind of defaulting to like, I'm very grateful to have this music video I have in, 30 minutes or whatever. But
Please don't say 30 minutes because that is insane how quickly the time is going by.
I'm like, oh, dude. But no, like part of it is because like, you know, it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, and I did the exact same thing. It's like, hey, I don't have any time to think about this. I just finished a job with these people. Like, I'm going to call the exact same people because we already know what is going on. We're already in a groove. So let me just call back the same people. And so some of the things will be the same. Of course, we might go get different things, but some things will be the same. And depending on like how much leeway you have in terms of change, world change, like, yeah, it's sometimes it's really just repeat, get the job done.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about a couple of projects that you have coming out. Yeah. So you have Rosemead coming out, which stars Lucy Liu, and then Lucky Liu, which stars Chang Chen. And these are both, you know, exciting names. And I'm curious to know, when you are brought on for a project, how do you make the decision, or what about the script speaks to you where you're like, I need to work on that project? Like what was special about these two in particular that made you want to work on them?
I think I've had a crush on Chang Chen since, oh God, I hope he never hears this. But I think I've had a crush on him since I was like 5. When did Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon come out? I was like, oh my God.
A long time ago.
Desert Princess.
It was like early 2000s, right? Yeah.
There was just something about man, that movie was so crazy because it opened my world in so many ways. I was like, wait a second, it's Chinese people on screen? I'm confused. They not animated? I'm confused.
Right.
What, they're speaking Chinese and I can understand it? I'm confused. But I mean, that was obviously a huge draw for me, but also like a very good producer friend of mine, Tony Yang, he's worked on all 3 of my movies in New York.
That's awesome.
We generally have a very similar taste when it comes to like what we think is good or not good. And if he says something is worth taking a look at, I'm always going to take it seriously. And then I 100% unanimously always understand why he brought it to me, which is like there is a world there of in those 2 projects in specific, it's like a cultural thing. Like this is a world that like we're both familiar with, that we want to make sure is like the look is done justice, right? And there's some of that is considering that there are not that many. I know they exist, but there's just not that many Asian American designers, specifically Chinese designers, specifically Mandarin speaking production designers that also speak English and understand like the world of an immigrant, because, well, diversity is a new thing here.
Yeah.
But you know, it's one of those things where it's like, if I don't do it, yes, there are other people that can do it, but like, are they going to do it like I do it?
Right.
And some of that has to do with the fact that, you know, it's like I was a specific person in a specific place at a specific time, able to do the scrappy budget level, but also with enough experience to do it well. Yeah. But also with like the cultural understanding of what the East Coast is, because I grew up in Maryland. Like, I have been going to New York since I was a child. I have friends that live there. I'm constantly working there. Like, it's one of those things where it's like very specific person, time, place. You know, and luckily for me, I did have the foresight of going back to, you know, mentors and things like that. I did have the foresight of training and bringing up with me a really phenomenal little crew of, let's say, a myriad of Chinese voices.
That's awesome.
So my art director is like Malaysian Chinese. She's amazing. I've been with her since the beginning of my career. And my set designer is like, she's newer to me. She hops between like a set designer role and an assistant art director role. Shout out Elisa and Karine. But they have been with me for so long that they kind of like, that aforementioned process I spoke about, like all of the documents are in the place that we think they're going to be. Yeah. We kind of have that shorthand, and it's really helpful that like Karine knows Cantonese and I know Mandarin, and Elisa kind of like, she's able to kind of hop between both of those things. And so when it comes to stuff like doing graphics, we all have mothers that we can call if we're unsure how to write it. Right. Yeah. It's not just my mother, it's everybody.
Everyone.
Mother.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah. It's specific time, place, whatever. And I think there's always something, I try to look for scripts that I really respond well to, scripts that are in some way hopeful. Like, I'm all about pain and torture and like whatever, like in terms of like the human experience. Like, I love that stuff too. It's obviously, you know, can't have light without the dark, but I like movies that I feel put an energy out into the world that is that projects a world that I want to see. Right? Like, I don't want to see somebody just getting like that. Unpopular opinion, I hated Sicario. I'm like, do we really need to see her getting Emily Blunt like getting beat and crying for 2 hours? Like, that's not fun for me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm like, yeah, it was a very pretty movie.
No, I agree with you.
But like, I don't like that.
Yeah.
What are we getting from this?
Right.
Nothing happens. There is no redeeming value for anybody.
Yeah.
Like, this is the world that sure, entertainment. But like, even John Wick, think about how prolific John Wick is, and it's because somebody killed his puppy, bro. Right. But that's something I can get behind. Yeah. If somebody killed my fucking puppy, like, and I don't have a puppy, but if I did have a puppy, right, like, don't you dare. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's about protecting one's own. Yeah. That's something I can get behind.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Any day, I don't care.
I think the important thing that you're touching on is perspective, right? Yeah. And being able to share perspectives from all different kinds of people, not just let's see the same story played out over and over and over again, or something that people are just not going to necessarily connect with on that deeper emotional level. You know, like there is that level of entertainment, sure, in filmmaking, but also, I don't know, I personally love movies that actually do something to me, that make me feel something on a deeper level, that stay with me for a week or more after I see the film, that make me think, that make me feel uncomfortable. The subversive types, you know, like the people who are actually doing something that is interesting, even if it makes me feel, I don't know about this, but it just gets me to think about something a little bit differently, right? Yeah. So there's another very special project that you worked on, Blue Sun Palace, which had its world premiere at Cannes. It's now also going to have a theatrical release, which is so exciting. How did you approach designing that world, and what about it are you most proud of?
That was, man, we're talking about like serendipity. That is some serendipity right there, that project. I remember, I think I've done this maybe twice in my career where I got a script or a deck and I was like, I don't care what it is, give it to me. Like,
nothing else mattered. It was just,
I need to do this project.
And
I think that one was so special because the director is just somebody that I really, really believe in. Connie is just, she has a stronger moral backbone than I think I've met in like any filmmaker. Like, you know what I mean? It's obviously I've met many great people, but she is one of the most unique voices. She does have a really strong sense of ethics, which obviously, like, when you're writing about sex workers, it's something where you need to have that underlying ethical approach, an empathetic approach, one that is grounded in genuine understanding and research and in community involvement. And that's something that is so clear in that script, is she's approaching this story not as an outsider, but as somebody that has spent years really understanding what those stories are, where all the nuances are. And this is why those characters are so believable and why they ring so true. She's said that it was based on her parents, but given that these characters are not directly based on their parents, as in, like, you know, you can't point to a guy in the movie and say, oh, that's her dad. Like, it's not that kind of A to B, you know, it's not that literal of a translation, but it's more so based on like a common experience as a Chinese American immigrant. Like, and I think that when I read something like that is so beautiful, and you can kind of see the little outlines of magic coming out of it, like the little like glints of silver, as that kind of, that they come out in the script in all of these like tiny little intimate moments. Like, it's something that's like, it's so rare to come across that. Like, yeah, give this to me. Like, you want me to work as a local? Sure, I don't care.
Yeah.
Like, you want me to be in an Airbnb with my art director and my set decorator and also my set? Yeah, I don't care.
Yeah.
You know, and they had, wow, I've also a huge fan of Lee Kang-shen. He's, you know, the male lead in Blue Sun Palace, and that's also just like, that's a guy that I've watched on screen ever since I've been in film. like, I really can't believe that he's in Blue Sun Palace still, and that he's just as funny and nice as you think he would be.
Yeah.
Man is hilarious. We're like at Cannes, like on the fucking like photo call situation, and the man's out there. Everybody else is drinking champagne because we won the French champagne prize, okay? And he's drinking an apple box, apple juice box. I'm like,
That's awesome.
I look at him, I'm like, is this real?
Yeah.
Is this man drinking apple juice? I think he is. This is a juice box. Man got a juice box. What's up? And he's just so casual about it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. There's something really, really, really sweet and endearing about all of the actors that I've worked with, but in specific him, because he just, I don't know. My friend Lily once said to me, Lily Gao, she's also an actress, but I remember she said to me, like, the thing that is most important about an actor is that, like, well before they're actually on screen, they're already that person. And so you don't ever feel a character starting or stopping.
Right.
And I think that that's something that he really embodies, is like, you don't see the lines of where that character is.
Mm-hmm.
There is no acting. There is just being.
Yeah. Those are the kinds of actors that really, I'm just like, how do you do that? How are you so embodied in yourself, if that even makes sense, to then come to a role that might be very different than who you are as an individual and your personality and everything that makes up who you are as a person. But then how do you just so seamlessly transition into that headspace? And how are you able to capture what is written in a script in such an easy way, you know? It's kind of magical. It isn't even kind of magical. It is magical.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about movies.
I think that's okay. So segueing back into my job, hey,
Please.
but that's also something that is super real, right? Like what you're talking about, that they just be, right? That it is magical. How do you do that? And well, let me tell you.
Break it down for us.
Number one, it should never look like a set.
Right.
Okay, it should never look like a set. People should be confused when I start pulling out the bushes.
Right.
They're like, what? This is a fake tree? I didn't even know there wasn't a tree there. Really? You were at the tech scout. There was no tree there. I put it there. You know, like, what? That river's not real? No, we dug it, bro. I don't know. Like, right. You should never see the lines of a set as much as is humanly possible. Obviously, we shoot on stages sometimes. Everybody's a pro. We can do that. But as much as I can, I try to build a world where there is no line, where you can use the whole world. Yeah. You can shoot every angle of it, and that there are things already programmed into this space that makes sense. So in Blue Sun Palace, we're obviously set in a massage parlor, and one of the things that I tried to do is, like, from the get, I tried to make sure that every single space within that massage parlor was already stocked with those things, so that if it comes into an actor's head to be like, oh, hey, I want to go to the kitchen, I want to get some stuff, I think this works better for the blocking, that stuff's already there. I'm not running in to try to put it in. Like, we already did the kitchen is good to go. You want to grab whatever, shove it into your backpack, great. We're ready to do that. So that those things can evolve naturally and not be hampered by, like, oh, hey, art department, can you go get this? Oh, hey, art department, can you go get that? Like, well, no, I don't need to, because it's already there. Yeah. Like, I try to put those things in play already, trying to understand how somebody else is doing their job. Right. And in specific, I think, you know, we were very lucky on Blue Sun Palace that all of the actors were they were as invested. I mean, actors generally are obviously invested in the project, but I mean, like, they all took the extra initiative to come out, I think, a little bit early and just, like, get their heads in the right place before they actually were on the screen. And that was something that was very special. Yeah. Because they took the time, you know, the extra time, even though obviously, like, the budget very small, but they took the time to be able to do that and just make sure that by the time they got to set, again, there was no acting. They just already are. Yeah. Well, clearly it seems that the script spoke to everyone, not just yourself, on a deeper level. When people are showing up in that sort of way, even if they know that the budget is smaller, I think there's something to art when it actually has something really important to say and really valuable to say, and people just feel it, right? They feel it on a deeper level, and they want to do their best to showcase what that story is about.
right?
Yeah.
So I think it's beautiful, and I think that there needs to be more films like that, more TV shows like that. That's all I want to see moving forward. Because sometimes I get very pessimistic and I'm like, is that ever going to be a reality? But I think it will be, as long as more and more people invest in stories like this, right?
Absolutely.
And just keep showing up.
And the thing that you're saying about investment, that's kind of what I mean, right? Is like when you're talking about mentors and things like that, it's like is also about investing your personal time and energy and, you know, priorities into projects like this. Because no, we don't do it for the pay. Absolutely not. Because there isn't much of it. But
Yeah.
everybody got paid fairly. But it's, you know, it's not something that you can even compare to a commercial rate.
Right.
But in that way, when you're investing your time and your energy into something special, when you are the right person for that project, you're basically investing in the future of independent film in a way, and independent voices in a way that is very real and very like, you can track how that happens. So something that a producer friend said to me, she's, you know, heavyweight in this community and we adore her and I'm so glad that she exists. She said to me that, like, you know, part of me being really responsible with how I lay out the scope of a project and how much that budget can handle is, and making sure that we can execute something excellent on that, making sure that it, like, we nail it on the creative, and also that we recoup all of the investors' money. Because if I burn through this set of investors and we recouped nothing, they're not going to come back and invest again.
Mm-hmm.
But if I can keep these investors, like, understanding that it's a smart place to put their money, and that they also get, like, you know, cultural credits out of it, that's how you get people to stay in independent film.
Right.
You have to land on both levels, and if you don't land on both levels, like, there's very little reason for somebody to put that much money into film.
Exactly. Yeah.
So
right.
It is very critical.
We do have to wrap, which I hate because I feel like I could talk for another hour with you. But I do have two final questions, and I'm going to kind of combine it because they're basically the same, but sort of different ideas of what, you know, success looks like and what legacy looks like for you. So I'm curious, you've had so much recognition in your career, and I'm wondering at this stage in your career what success really means for you. And when you think about even legacy, you know, what that looks like in terms of not only the types of projects that you've worked on, but also in terms of the people that you've had the opportunity to work with and have conversations with and have relationships with. What does that all look like for you?
I think a success looks like, to me, like a sustainable career.
Mm-hmm.
Like one in which I am able to balance having a personal life and also being able to have the career that I want and doing projects that I care about, and having the luxury of saying no to things that are money jobs.
Yeah.
Right. And like the thing about money jobs is, I don't mean money jobs as in like, oh, I get paid. I always like to get paid. Thank you very much. I deserve to get paid. But what I mean by money job is like one in which I have no like investment in either the people or the creative. Like as in like, oh, somebody brought me this and was just like, yo, can you do this for me, please? And I'm like, shh. Like, I want to be able to have enough, the luxury of time.
Yeah.
So that I can say no to that, if that makes sense. I want to have the luxury of like keeping the time for myself. And I think that that is maybe the biggest success you can be as a filmmaker, is having the luxury of time to think, to make great things, to really get all the little details right, to be able to like then hopefully be recognized by your industry for that, so that you do command a paycheck on some projects, not every single one, of course, but on some projects that allow you the luxury of time.
Yeah, it's true.
You know, it's not something that we really talk about, how much film takes away your ability to have a personal life, especially in like the first few years. The fact that I have any of one now is actually just because of like how slow it is.
Right.
Like and I still think it is a luxury. The fact that I can have the time and not be worried about it is still a luxury.
Yeah.
right? And I think that's something where it's like, for me, very small window, but I hope in the future there will be more of it.
Yeah. Well, Evaline, thank you so much for being on the show. I genuinely appreciate you taking the time to be on here and for just explaining not only what you do on a day-to-day basis, but what this all means for you and how you want to pass it along to the next generation. I really appreciate you being on here.
Of course. It was a real pleasure. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. All right. That does it for this month's episode of Her Vision, Her Voice. Thank you all so much for tuning in. I will be back for another episode on May 17th. You can find the entire set list from the first hour of the show on the dublab website when the archived episode is out early next week. If you would like to know more about my guest, Evaline Wu Huang, you can follow her on Instagram at Evaline Wu Huang. I'm Aline Kazarian, and this is Her Vision, Her Voice. Stay tuned for more dublab programming coming up next. Have a great weekend, everyone.